Welcome back to Father Flight Sim.
Welcome to Father Son Flight Sim. Tonight we're going to do a flight in real time, real world time, and real world weather. I'm going to do a night flight from Orange County Airport to Santa Barbara Airport using VOR navigation, and I'm going to fly basically like I'm doing an IFR flight. However, I'm not actually using ATC. I'm just practicing, seeing if I basically remember how to use the VORs and how to do the approach plates. You know, as we go through the startup here of the plane, I'll show you some screenshots of the plates I'm using. I'm also doing a test flight for FltPlanGo, which is a free app on the Apple Store, and I believe it's also on Android, and I'm testing it out in this flight to see if it actually connects, and there we go. I'm opening up, this is a screenshot from FltPlanGo. I'm getting my frequencies for ATIS and for the localizer for John Wayne Airport, because I'm hoping to use the localizer flying straight out. I know probably in the real world ATC would not let me do that because I'm such a slow plane. They'd want me to get off of the airport heading. But the plan here is to go to intercept Minnow, which is straight ahead of me, if you see that intercept there, which is intercepting the localizer and Seal Beach on radio. I think it's 165. And then from there I'm going to go to Avalon, and so right now I'm and from Avalon I'm going to take Victor Airway 208, disregarding the well, I think I'm okay with the altitude when I do this, but there's some danger with departing traffic from LA, so I'm not sure they would let me do this either. But that's the starting plan. So I'm getting all my frequencies off of FltPlanGo, and I'm putting them all into my Nav1 and Nav2. And I'm planning the order, which I'm going to switch from Nav1 and Nav2. So I'm going to put Nav1 to the ILS, and Nav2 to Avalon for the first leg probably. Right now I'm going to pick up ATIS at 126.0. So I'm programming the computer, and again, this is real world, so it's going to correctly place me on departing runways 20. So I'm gonna plan to depart on 20 right, and again I'm not using ATC, but I am getting my altimeter set, and you know, it's 3006, so I'm setting my altimeter right now, and we'll be taxiing out shortly. So this is kind of a fun time. I actually did this recording late at night after everyone had gone to bed, and I was like up till, you know, late hours in the morning.
So this is a voiceover.
So we're actually recording a voiceover right now, and you know, I'm using it to sort of narrate what's going on, and also if my son has any questions about what we're doing, he can feel free to ask, and we can freely talk about it. I mean, so far pretty straightforward, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So right, so we're squawking VFR 1200, and you know, I'm getting, I think actually I do a run up here too. I try to remember to do a run up at the tower.
Oh, that's cool.
So we'll be taxiing shortly, and going to the runways. You see what I'm doing right now? I set the VOR 2, or I'm getting ready to set it to 111.4, which is the Avalon VOR.
Orange County.
And when I get in flight, I'm going to dial that in to the nearest 2 radial when I'm ready to intercept it. I'm kind of sort of planning what it should be right now, so it's kind of close. And I'm doing that based on the intercept. So the intercept from Minnow is from 165, I believe. No, I'm sorry, I'm dialing in Seal Beach, I think. I'm trying to get the intercept from Minnow on nav 2.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I'm dialing in Seal Beach. And then you can see on the standby is 111.4. So when I get in flight, I'm just going to be able to switch between on nav 2. I'm going to be able to switch between the Seal Beach and the Avalon VOR. So I'm sort of planning ahead, right? So right. So again, I would do this in real life too, where I would plan out my nav 1 and then the standby, and nav 2 and then the standby. So that all I had to do was really flip from one to the other, and after I changed frequencies, then I would put the next standby in. So after I leave Avalon, my next one's going to be Gaviota VOR, because that Victor Airway runs straight between Avalon and Gaviota VOR, and Gaviota is right next to Santa Barbara, so I'm going to fly that the whole way.
Okay.
Right?
And then you're going to try and do an approach.
Well, yes, then once we get close enough, we're going to actually do an approach, which I'll review later in the video as we get closer. I do splice some of this video to cut it down a little bit, because it is an hour-and-a-half flight if you were to take a Cessna 172 there. So I'm getting my taxi out onto taxiway Bravo, and I'm going to go all the way to Lima. And I forgot, there is no India, because India looks too much like a 1. So they skip over India and go from Kilo to Lima. So here we are. We're about to go to the tower run-up. I'm actually using the FltPlanGo to kind of see where I'm at and make sure I'm at the tower run-up. Pretty soon I'm going to turn in and I'm going to turn towards the tower. And you can see my taxi lights are on, but I can barely see anything. I can barely see the taxiway. And then I'm going to start up on pre-flight procedures, and I will say that I make some mistakes in this flight, which I'll point out for learning purposes, because I'm still trying to refresh, and we haven't really found a great checklist yet. I'm trying to use the checklist from FltPlanGo. It comes with a Cessna 172 set of checklists, but they're hard to use, and they're actually for the Cessna 172 with the carburetor. So there's a point here where it's pretty funny. I'm looking for the carb heat because it's on my checklist, but this is a fuel injection, so there's no carb heat, and I'm like, well, what is it? Okay, so right now I'm looking to make sure my controls are free and correct, and it's good to do this even on a simulator, because you might be out of calibration on your controls. I did forget to check the rudder, but I did get the yoke.
That's good enough.
Yeah, so then we're gonna, you'll see I'm gonna check the trim. I'm checking the trim here, and then I'm checking to make sure the fuel switch is on both. And then, yeah, you can see I'm playing with the trim, and I'm trying to get that to takeoff position. And then I realize, oh, it's on my yoke. So there it is.
Looks good right about there.
Right, yeah. So when you run up, you want to have the parking brake on, and then you're going to run the RPMs. That's why I'm looking at the RPMs. You're going to run it up to about 1800. Okay? And then the first thing you do is check to make sure that your oil gauges are in the green, your vacuum is in the green. All your gauges off there to the left are basically looking good and in the green when you add power on the ground, right?
Yes.
And then once you have done that and you're satisfied, then you're going to check your magnetos, and I do right and then I go to left, and you're looking for about a 50 RPM drop on each one, or 50 RPM drop, sorry. So we looked good there, so one more time I'm looking around before looking around the cockpit gauges before and again right now I'm looking for cabin heat, because you check cabin heat and it's supposed to also drop, but I'm in a fuel injection airplane. so I don't see cabin heat, and I'm all like, where is the cabin heat? I'm looking all over for it. I see one, it looks like it's way over there, but then that's cabin air heat, or cabin heat, so I'm like, oh, that's not it. Oh well. But I do make some mistakes here, because the checklist I'm using is not really the right checklist for the plane.
maybe one day we can download a Cessna 172 with the carbonator heat.
Yeah. I want you to notice what I didn't do. I want you to see if you can tell what I didn't do here yet. I've put the RPMs back down. Can you check? Or can you determine what I've not done? And I don't realize it till after takeoff, and so I have to do it during takeoff. What have I not done?
You have not adjusted the compass.
You're right. I have. Not
the heading indicator.
The heading.
Yeah,
I haven't set my heading indicator yet, so that's like something you do, like right after you start up. And I actually checked. It is on the. I think it's on one of the checklists at startup, and I just used the run-up checklist. So here I am, complete failure on using checklists. So I got to get so much better at it, and
yeah, maybe find more better checklists for that.
Well, I noticed I did some research on X-Plane and in the directories, and the aircraft has an operating manual for each aircraft that's stock with the X-Plane. And at the end of each of those, there's sort of a checklist on there, but it's like several pages long. So if we print that out, it's going to kill our printer ink. So we need to just take that and adopt it. Here I am. We're going to the runway, onto the runway now. And again, I'm not using ATC, so we're just going to go ahead and take off. And there's no other aircraft loaded up. So because I have this heading not set right. I miss using the localizer to get out to Minnow.
So it messes you up, basically.
It basically messes me up, and I basically never recover from getting back on the localizer. But I do check the radial when I cross the radial from Seal Beach, the 125 radial from Seal Beach, which I have on Nav 2. Then I just go ahead and I give up, and I go ahead and say I'm going straight to Avalon. So you'll see me do that. But I'm go ahead and taking off. You can kind of see we're rolling down now. Rollout speed is 55, so I'm beginning to roll out now. Airspeed's alive, right? And again, we're in a good climb, and you can see that glide slope on the localizer come in. But then very quickly, once I realize that I'm pointing, my heading indicator's pointing at 105 instead of 20. I go, oops. And you can see I'm way off on the localizer already, and I'm trying to recover. And pretty soon you'll see me realize that and reset my heading indicator. You have to do that at a straight level when you know the compass is not hung up. There you go. I'm correcting it now. And that's not the only mistake I make in this flight, but as far as flying the plane and navigating, I actually do pretty well. So, it's just I got to get better at using checklists, and it's a big lesson for me. It's kind of humiliating. Because here I am telling you to use checklists, and here I'm, bad at using them myself. So you can see the localizer's way off on my left wing, and I'm flying. Basically at 20. I'm trying to fly runway heading, but I'm just not. I'm going to look back and behind me, and you're going to see that the airport is off. You can see I'm not flying the radial. I'm actually flying off the radial, so the VOR is doing just fine. But I know where I'm at. Even though you can see here that we're flying at night and we're out overlooking the ocean straight ahead, there is absolutely zero horizon. We're flying real weather. There was a nice clear night tonight in Orange County, so there's no weather to worry about right now. You can see the stars, you can see the lights on the ground. It kind of looks like I'm flying in space right now. That's actually not too different from real life. When you have that kind of condition, you cannot, unless you have a very bright moon, you cannot see the horizon at night. So this is sort of, here we go. I'm checking FltPlanGo. And you can see, I can see that I've taken off from the airport. These are screenshots, by the way, that I pulled off of my iPad and interjected in. I'm not trying to use the FltPlanGo to actually navigate. I'm actually trying to navigate on via just VORs alone. But I am checking the FltPlanGo just to once in a while, just to see am I in the right spot, because
Just to make sure.
well, yeah, it's a test for me because I'm trying to get back some practice on VOR. Yeah, I'm sure I'm not as sharp on it as I used to be, and so I'm just checking, basically IFR procedures, and I'm checking to make sure I do it right. Santa Barbara was one of my favorite airports to fly into back when I was flying. It was what I did for my long cross country before when I was doing my flight training. But I only flew in there VFR. I never flew IFR there. Well, maybe I did once. But
Why was it so fun to fly?
well, because if you're flying VFR, normally you take the LA corridor, so you go right over LA, and there's a special pass there. Some people call it the mini pass. We used to call it the corridor, but there's this really narrow strip within the Bravo airspace, which there was a procedure you had to fly through it. You had to be at a certain altitude if you're going one direction. You had to be on a certain radial. You had to announce. You had to be on contact with the LA Tower. And it was all in the sectional on what the procedure was. Anyways, I'm trying to figure. Now I'm still trying to get my intercept radio, which is just starting to come in now. I'm climbing. I believe I'm going to do this flight all the way to 7,000 feet. I think that's what I chose. So if I were actually filing this flight plan, I would have indicated 7,000 feet. But I'm climbing pretty much the whole way, and I'm not worried about obstacle. And you can see the intercept radial is now coming in on nav 2, right?
Yep.
See that? So once it comes in, and I give up trying to go to the minnow intercept, and again, the ATC would never have allowed me to do that anyway. They would have told me to fly vectors 220 until I'm out of the airspace, and then they'd probably tell me to resume navigation as filed. But you can see I'm doing an outside look at the plane now. Pretty soon we're going to lose all the visuals on the night, on the land as well, because we're going to be pretty far out in the ocean.
Looks like you're over the ocean right now.
Right, and I do look for visual cues over Avalon at some point. So we'll look at that, and I go outside the plane and go, okay, I'm expecting to see Avalon City here and the airport here, and pretty much right on. So we'll get there. So you can see now I'm now playing around with the radials because I'm going to dial in my next radial, right?
Yep.
So
Which is the Avalon.
No, my Avalon. I think I'm putting that into. No, you're right. You're right. I'm doing the Avalon radio.
Oh.
So you're right. I'm going nav 1, nav 2. So I'm alternating between setting nav 1s and nav 2 right now, and just checking to see where that intercept radial is, which is coming in. And then once I get to Avalon, and again I'm on a straight heading towards Avalon right now, right?
Yep.
You can see that nav 1 is dialed in pretty good. Right on 230, right? And I'm flying. I'm turning now towards 230 because I'm on the radial. I always like flying to, if I'm flying to the station, I always want to be on the 2 radial. If I'm flying from the station, I always like to be on the from radial because I don't like to do the reverse sensing. If you get that mixed up. Like if you're trying to fly to a station on a from radial, then you get all messed up, and instead of the CDI needle being the radial, it's now the plane. And you have to. Now I think this actual nav computer actually has a reverse mode. So if you're doing the reverse sensing, you can click on the reverse mode, and then it would correct for that. But you should always fly.
That's cool.
But I have to read up more on that because I never flew with these fancy gadgets. It was always like a radio, just a simple radio with the comm, kind of like the SciTech comm.
Yeah.
Which we don't have. But I'm using this one. I'm trying to get to the point. I think I'm using it right, so I'm just not using the map there on the the screen. And I'm using it as if I were using the uniform designation of the plane, which is basically just 2 nav radios and a transponder. All right, so I'm at my intercept now. Or I'm at the radial intercept from Seal Beach. So now that I don't need the Seal Beach VOR anymore, pretty soon I'm going to dial it into the Gaviota. I think I might do that after I pass Avalon, because I'm going to pass Avalon VOR, overfly it, redial it to the from radial to Gaviota VOR, and then I'm going to intercept that radio.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you,
That's right.
do you understand that?
Kind of. I understand it, kind of. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I don't have the map here to draw it for you, but basically, when you overfly the station, there's sort of a dead zone because you're so close to the station, and the needle's gonna like peg, and you're gonna see the no reading flag come up on the VOR needle. Right now, you can see I have an up needle on the bottom of the VOR. You see that?
Yep.
That means that it's flying to the station, right? So I'm heading towards the station on radial 230, and I'm flying.
And I'm assuming that if you're down, then that means you're flying from the station.
That means on the radial you have dialed in, it's reading it from. So if I were to take that radial and, like, say, flip it 180 degrees so that it's showing heading 0, what is that? I don't know, 230 minus 180, what, 50? No,
Yeah.
it's 170, I think it is, or something like that.
Wait, 230?
No, I'm sorry, that's not south, that's a 5, isn't it? Okay, sorry, that's a 5, so so it'd be 040, right? Or something like that? Or 050?
230 minus 180.
I hate doing math. I always use the dial to do it for me. So I have a 230, and then I look at the bottom one. Okay, that looks like 3, 4, 050. Okay, there you go. Okay. I don't like doing math like that in my head, especially when I'm in the airplane. I always like to use every trick I have. But yeah, if I were to dial that so that 050 would appear at the top, then it would immediately flip from the to the from, and I'd be flying the from radial, and then I'd be in reverse sensing. Right?
Yeah.
But I'm flying towards the station, so I want to be in the 2, and you can see I'm gonna dial. Now, the cool thing about flying to this, if your goal is to fly to the station and you get off the radio, right? Instead of re-intercepting your radio, one thing you can do is just redial the radio that you're on and fly that heading instead.
That's cool.
Because it's just going to take you to the station. If all you want to do is go to the station, right? Now, if you want to stay on the Victor Airway, then it's different. After we pass Avalon, we're going to go to a Victor Airway. So I'm not going to do that, and I'm going to be flying from a station, so you can't do that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so as we get closer, and I think pretty soon here, Avalon, yeah, you can see Avalon Airport, Catalina Airport is now showing up right in front. You kind of see that strip there? Do you see it?
Yep.
Okay, and pretty soon Avalon City is going to show up on the lower left, I believe, of the screen. So I'm pretty confident at this point, even though I have no bearing to, and I'm trying to set up my next radio, so I'm flying up and sort of getting off course a little bit because I'm paying attention to the radio. I'm not flying autopilot on any of this, by the way. I feel strongly that autopilot is for, I think I'm flying 6,000 feet, by the way. Autopilot should be used once you understand, or once you have enough experience with controlling the plane.
Yeah, I agree.
Knowing how to trim it up, and your autopilot is your trim until you truly master it. Then that's when you apply autopilot. So I'm not doing any of this with autopilot. And yeah, my flight level is going to be 6,000 for the entire flight. So I'm at altitude now, and I'm now trying to trim up the plane for that heading. I've lowered the mixture a little bit, so you can see you may not have caught when I did that, but I lowered the mixture for this altitude, and my fuel flow now is been lowered to half what it was. Okay, and so I think now I'm going to dial in the, pretty soon I'm going to dial in Gaviota. Now I can't pick up Gaviota VOR until I'm about halfway on that Victor way. Right, it's too far away. But, so there's going to be a point where I have to switch from Nav 1, flying from the station in Avalon, to flying to the station in Gaviota. Right?
Yeah.
And I'll have to make the switch sometime in the flight. Now, when I do that, you'll be able to tell when to do it, because I'm going to get, as I get closer to Santa Barbara Airport, you're going to see the plate, the procedural plate to do the ILS for Santa Barbara. Okay, so what am I doing here? I think I know it. I think I'm dialing the from radio. I think that's what I'm gonna do. No, that's 113.3. I think that was Gaviota. So I don't know. It's been we did this several nights ago, or I did this several nights ago. So exactly. So still flying now. As I'm getting closer to the station, you can see it's getting harder and harder to stay on the needle. So I'm off by about 4 degrees now.
Because the station is getting so close.
Because the station is getting closer and closer and closer. Now I'm still gonna try to intercept it. So I do turn in a little bit to try to re-intercept that radio. But as you get closer and closer and closer to the station, it just becomes, to the point where just fly runway heading until you're in flight, right?
Yeah.
Basically, and you'll definitely notice the sensitivity increase as you get closer to the station. And as I overfly the station, I go and I check. I look outside the plane and I check that the airport's where I think it needs to be. And the Avalon's now starting to come in on the lower left thing. Start seeing the city lights coming in. And the interesting thing is, when I do that, you can't see the shore anymore behind me. So we're like really flying in space. So,
basically.
So right. Yeah, that's Avalon coming in. Again, I'm still trying to intercept the radio, so I'm going to like 220 to try to intercept it again. I could have just dialed it to the 2 rating that I was on, but we're getting pretty close to this. We're getting pretty close, so I do actually want to overfly the station at 230 heading, because I think the new one is when I intercept, I think it's going to be like a 3. I don't remember the radio. I think it was 3 or something like that. Off from. So yeah, you'll see. You're going to overfly it a little bit, and then you're going to dial in. We're going to dial in the from radio, and then I'm going to turn it into about 30 degrees to intercept the radio, and then fly heading up the radio.
So, are you on?
Not yet. I'm navigating basically off of Avalon radio for this leg of the flight. And again, once I'm on the Victor Airway, about halfway through the Victor Airway, I'm going to have to switch from using Avalon to using Gaviota.
Okay.
From Avalon from to Gaviota 2, right? On the proper Victor Airway. And then there'll be a point where I have to intercept. In order to do the procedure, I have to intercept another one. There's another one after that, and then I got to get the localizer in order to do the proper procedure for the ILS approach.
Yeah.
So there's ways
It's
away.
confusing.
Yeah. It just takes practice. I mean, I'm surprised that I remember as much as I do. Having been away from it for about 20 years, but.
I'm surprised you remember that much.
Yeah, but I think a good part of it is having the FltPlanGo to check the procedures and everything. Once I studied the procedures before I embarked on the flight. Of course, you should do that anyway, especially in the real world. You should study the plan, the whole plan. What altitude you're going to fly. If you're really doing good flight plan work, they're going to even calculate how much time it's going to take you on each leg. You know, you go, okay, well, I'm going to be flying about 110 knots, and you know, given the winds, I'm going to have to do this correction angle, and that means my ground speed's going to be this, and then that should take me this amount of time long for that one leg, and then you can even time yourself and see how good you are on your plans. And I tell you, it's a good feeling when you make a plan like that and you follow it step by step, and things are going. Now here we're outside the plane. I think we're overflying the station now. I'm looking for Avalon. There's Avalon, the city on the island, Catalina Island, and you can't see the shore anymore. And there's the airport. We're overflying the airport. So we have just passed the station, and you can see, or it's about to pass, and you can see it's going to flip. You can see that radio just go right off.
Yep.
It's going to flip to no reading. So we'll see that happen. A second here.
So close.
Yeah, and then you always wait to overfly the station before you do the radio, so you have a good bearing of where you are. So I'm definitely off the radio, so I'm just flying my plane heading. There it went. You see the flip?
Yep.
Okay, so it flipped pretty fast there, and now I'm going to dial in the radio. I'm going to try to get back up to altitude. I lost a little altitude doing that. Excursion, looking out the plane, right?
Yeah.
So now I'm going to dial my from heading, which is the Victor Airway. Come on, let's do it. There we go. So you can see I'm doing it, okay, and you can see now the radio switched from my left to the far right, and it's okay. It's 295, and then I'm going to turn in to intercept that at about a 30-degree or so angle. So now I'm turning to intercept it. I'm doing standard rate turns here. I'm trying to do standard rate turns. A little shallow,
Yeah.
but it's okay. So there's the radio. See, I'm not on the radio yet, even though I'm flying the heading, or I just passed the heading. So I need to intercept the radio. So I'm going to cut in about 30 degrees. And when that radio starts to come in, that means I'm on the radio, and then I got to turn to my from heading. Right. Now, funny thing is, on this leg, the plane started to want to naturally roll right a little bit. I don't show. I think I cut it out, but you don't have roll trim on this plane. It's not high performance enough.
Oh.
But there was a trick we used to do if that started to happen, where you just on the wing that's going down, right? You could fix that by just burning fuel a little bit on that one wing. So you flip the fuel selector to the right. I'm gonna roll. It rolls right. I flipped it to the right wing, burn it for about 3 or 4 minutes, and stop doing it. Select it back to both. Okay, now we're getting back on the radio. We're getting on our from radio. You see, I'm slowly turning as the radio's coming in.
Just there.
And your goal is to get right on the radio when you hit the heading. If you can do it, it's pretty good. And I did pretty good. So I'm at 295 now, straight now, and I'm right on the radio. I'm pretty happy with myself.
Awesome.
I'm pretty happy with myself. So now I'm flying on the Victor Airway, and I think the minimum altitude for this Victor Airway is 4,000, so I'm fine. I think that's what it said in the chart. And pretty soon, I think I'm going to show a screenshot of my FltPlanGo where you can see that I'm going to check to make sure I'm actually correct. Once I'm established on this from radio, I'm going to then dial in Gaviota on my nav2, right? And then I'm going to you can see the nav2 is not even coming in. Oh, see, there I am. There's my FltPlanGo. You can see I'm right on the Victor Airway, Victor 208, right?
Yep.
And right off of Avalon VOR, so I've done this correctly. And I'm pretty happy with myself.
That's good.
Yeah, so this is a pretty, this is a pretty long leg of the flight. So I do cut out some of this straight level flying. I do get the plane trimmed out pretty good, and I got that roll trim fixed by burning on one of the tanks for about 4 minutes or so, 3 or 4 minutes. So I got a nice smooth plane. It's almost like flying autopilot when you trim it up right. You don't.
If you trim it up just right, it's almost just like.
It's just, that's the old school autopilot.
Basically.
before they had autopilot. So you know, much of this leg of the flight, I don't even have my hands on the yoke anymore because I trimmed it up pretty good.
Yeah.
So I just make minor corrections every now and then. You can see the radial's just starting to, it's about 2 degrees off on the left, so every now and then I'm going to correct for that. And I'm just going to turn in 5 degrees or whatever to get back on the radio and fly. You know, that's what you're supposed to do. Now, if I were flying with autopilot and nav mode, it would do all that for me, right? But I'm not using autopilot. I'm intentionally not using autopilot because I want to get my flying skill back. So, so there you go. So don't depend on the autopilot if you want to, you know, if you want to get good, right? Not until you have a lot more hours. So.
It's good for passenger jets.
Well, it's good for these too. I mean, what?
If you're flying long.
One of the good things, what autopilot does allow you to do, it frees up your attention on controlling the plane a little bit, so you can focus on something else like navigating, or. But you still got to be, even with autopilot on, you still got to pay attention to what your autopilot's doing.
Yeah.
Make sure that you got to check it. Okay, am I at altitude? Am I at heading?
You can't put all of your trust into it.
You can't put your trust in it. In fact, there are some stories with autopilot messing up and pilots not being able to get out of autopilot, you know, because something's wrong with the computer or something, and it didn't go too well for them. So yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to scare you, but you know, sometimes these things break, you know, and so you don't want to overly rely on autopilot. No offense to anybody out there who loves autopilot. I mean, autopilot's a good tool to use in the plane. I'm just saying that right now we're trying to get some skill, we want to get some skill trim with the plane. We want to get used to these side tech controls. Let's just use trim.
Yep, trim works.
And look at how it dialed in that. I mean, 6,000, 0 VSI. I'm checking again, and you can see I'm right on the radial. You know, so I love this FltPlanGo. By the way, FltPlanGo is completely free on iOS, and it connects to, you can see it connects to X-Plane 11. You just have
It's really easy to connect it.
It's really easy to connect just through the wireless network.
You just have to have FltPlanGo up to the latest version.
Yeah, and you have to go into the network settings of X-Plane and enable it. So you have to enable X-Plane to communicate with it. But once you do, I mean, it's a breeze.
Maybe we can do a tutorial.
Yeah, maybe we'd have to get the screen recorder for the iOS, but one thing I haven't done yet with FltPlanGo, I haven't created an account yet, so I can't exactly. I think I can't use it yet to do actual flight planning. I can use the maps, I can use the airport diagrams, I can use the ILS plates, I can use the checklist and the tools. And you got to be careful because it also connects to real ATC, so you got to make sure you don't actually file a flight plan with real ATC.
That would be a mess.
When you're going to fly the sim, so don't do that.
I didn't know it connected to real ATC.
Oh yeah, it's designed. It will use the GPS in the device itself, and you can file a flight plan in real life and everything. I know how I actually learned about it because I was watching YouTube videos, and this guy was a student pilot. He's like, I can't afford the FltPlanGo because it's a subscription service, and I found this, FltPlanGo, and it's awesome, and it's free, and so I was like, oh, I wonder if it works with X-Plane, and lo and behold, I found another guy who was using it with X-Plane. Okay, I cut this out, I'm getting a lot closer now. What I'm going to do pretty soon here is switch over to the Gaviota. Or no, I think it's either Gaviota or I'm going to dial in Fillmore for my intercept to start the approach into Santa Barbara. But I got to transition from the Avalon VOR to the Gaviota VOR at some point. I think what I'm doing here is I'm dialing in the Fillmore radial, which is the begin. If you're on this Victor Airway and you're flying the ILS, then no, I'm actually dialing in Gaviota. Okay, so Gaviota VOR came in, and that's what I'm doing. And you see, I got a 2 heading there, and I'm at the same radial as Avalon, right?
Yep.
And so I'm now going to switch from navigating off the Avalon VOR to the Gaviota VOR, which is the same Victor Airway, right? And again, I always prefer to, if I'm navigating towards the station, to navigate on that to radial rather than a from radial. And then I think with the other VOR, I'm going to start dialing in my intercept pretty soon here, which is off the Fillmore. And when I bring up the Santa Barbara plate, we'll review the actual procedure for vectoring into the ILS. So yeah, now I'm dialing in Fillmore.
Is Fillmore, like, is it, what is it?
Fillmore is a VOR. So
is it after,
it's an interception VOR.
Oh.
So what I'm doing is I'm going to keep flying on this Vector airway, and then I'm going to set for the intercept. That's basically starts your approach into Santa Barbara.
Okay.
So that approach is a 250 radial, which on this heading you can see the radial is way ahead of me. It's pegged off to the right, which means I'm flying towards that radial on remember I'm flying a heading of basically 290, right?
Yep.
And if you look on the top VOR, okay, here it is. So you can see I'm flying the radial. I'm closer to Santa Barbara at this point, and I'm Fillmore radial is way off to the right there. You can see that. So it's 112.5.
I see it.
Right, and you should ident that. And then there's an intercept, which I think is showing the intercept between Victor 27 and the Victor Airway that I'm on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then you can kind of see that there's the set of intercepts off to the left of that radial. You see that? There's a gauche, and then there's Lober, and then there's off of Gaviota, there's the 163 radial. Do you see that?
Yes.
That is basically the approach into the ILS. But we're going to bring up the plate, and I don't remember if I bring up the plate here sooner or later. The plate's going to have far more detail than that, and I'm basically going to fly the procedure. Here we go. Here's the. Now, that's not where my airplane is because I took the screenshot much later, but I put it in here for now. I'm trying to intercept that 25 radial off Fillmore. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm trying to get to, it's going to be, I think it's Golet intercept, but it doesn't really matter. It's whatever my intercept or my Victor Airway off Gaviota. I'm gonna turn basically when the 25 radial comes in. Then I'm gonna fly to Lober and intercept Gaviota again with the 163 radial, flying to the station, so it's going to be reciprocal with that, right?
Yeah.
And then you see this radial off of San Marcos. You see that?
Yep, I see it.
Okay. I'm going to dial that in.
Okay.
So that would give me a nice, 15 degree or 20 degree intercept onto the localizer, and then I fly the localizer, which is on 110.3 down into the airport. Right? Do you see how that works?
Yeah.
Now, if you look down at the bottom here, you'll see at each intercept, you'll see the altitudes that you're supposed to be at. So the first altitude, I'm supposed to be at 3,500 on that intercept on the ILS, and then I go ahead, I go to 27, right? Now, you see that 4,000 right above the 250 radial, that 4,000, that's 4,000 feet. When you're flying that approach, you need to be at 4,000 feet, and then you can descend to 35 when you're on the Gaviota 163 radial. You see that?
Yeah.
All right, and then when you intercept the localizer, you're at 3,500, and then you can check with the other intercepts. That's where you should be
See the altitude.
to see the altitudes at each of those. See, these intercepts are all along there's Goyet intercept, Naps intercept. You see that?
Yep.
And down at the bottom of the approach, it tells you what altitude you should be at.
And Naps intercept, it looks like it's 1800.
That's that's correct, 1,800 feet. And then if you follow it down, if you follow the radial down, there's a decision point altitude. If you can't see the runway by that time, then you follow the missed approach. The missed approach over here, basically you're going to fly from San Marcos radio 185 back, and you're going to start over. See?
Yeah.
Okay. And I know that was a lot to digest.
Yes, it was.
And maybe we should have had the screen up there a little bit longer. But yeah, you see, that's...
I understood most of them. That's good.
Yeah. Well, you know, it takes a little bit of time to get used to it. And
yeah.
I tell you, I had to study it a little bit to remember what all those altitudes were, what the intercepts were about, and you know, and the localizer. And oh yeah, I remember the missed approach procedures are written on there as well. And it's a good thing when you're flying IFR, you basically have to have those charts.
Yeah.
You have to have those charts. Now I'm checking ATIS at Santa Barbara now because I'm expecting the 2.5 radio to come in pretty soon here. I'm checking the altimeter 3006. So I reset that a little bit. I should dial that in. Okay. And you can see that runway 7 is an active runway. That's the runway that I'm going to go into for the ILS approach. So I turn the comm off. And there's a point here during the approach where I leave a nav ident on, so I apologize for that. You hear the Morse code pretty much the entire approach. so here's the Fillmore. Here's the Fillmore radio 2.5 radio should be coming in any minute now on nav 1. I think this is why I forwarded you to this point, because it's about to start coming in. And you'll see what I do. As soon as it comes in, I'm going to descend to 4,000 feet, and I'm going to turn heading 250, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Because it's the 2.5 radio, and I'm flying from the Fillmore station,
Yep.
so I should expect to see a from, which I do. I already see the from. You see that?
Yeah.
And then when that radio comes in, flying on this vector airway, now, yeah, I have officially started my approach into Santa Barbara. Okay. So you can see, yep, there it goes. You see it coming in?
Yep.
And I can kind of see. Is that the airport in front of me? I kind of see the airport in front of me, but it's barely visible. You know, at night, it kind of almost looks like just a line of stars or something. But that probably is the airport right in front of me.
It looks like it.
And again, I'm going to wait until the radio comes in all the way. I'm not going to. I'm trying not to overfly it, but I'm going to wait till I'm pretty well established. And then very quickly, this is when the point it starts to get very busy in the cockpit. Because I got to descend now to 4,000 once it comes in. I got to dial in the Gaviota radial again to
Pay attention to everything.
163, and then pretty much as soon as I intercept 163 radial and turn to the heading, I got to dial in the San Mateo radial and the ILS. So it's all going to happen real quick, right?
Yep. Just watch and enjoy.
Yeah, well, let's see how well I do.
It's gonna be fun to watch.
Let's see how well I do, and you know, it's a thing of beauty when you turn on to the ILS in the airport right there, particularly when you're in weather and you're doing all this in clouds and you don't have any reference to anything on the ground at all, and then you pop out of the clouds when you're doing a perfect ILS and there's the runway. It's a great feeling.
It must be.
Actually, I did a sim flight to LA, and that's exactly. I mean, I popped out at like 250 feet, and there was the runway.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
You saw that?
Yeah.
You saw me do that?
Yeah,
that was,
I watched him.
I wish I'd recorded that, but
That was big.
I didn't record it.
I guess that's for another video.
Well, we can, you know, I'll have to say this too. The ATC and X-Plane sucks.
Yeah, it's not good at all.
I mean,
I tried to direct him into a mountain.
Yeah, I was flying into Chino from Orange County, and was trying to vector me for the visual into runway. I think it was 30, and it kept trying to fly me into Santiago Peak. So if I had been in IFR conditions, I would have crashed into the mountain. But since I saw what it was trying to make me do, and there's this mountain there that's heading me towards, I think I finally decided to veer off when I got about 500 feet above the ground. I'm like, nah, I'm not doing this. So.
You did your own approach.
Well, if I had been talking to ATC, I would have, probably asked for some clarifications. Right?
Or you could just say, hey, you're directing me into a mountain.
Yeah, but it makes it really hard to try. Now, I had another case where I was trying to do a localizer approach into runway 2 left at Orange County, and it was trying to vector me for the visual, and it was telling me to maintain 2,000. Okay, I'm at the intercept, and you can see right as the intercept's coming in here, I'll finish the story in a minute, you can see that I'm right on that intercept. You see that?
Yeah.
So I'm right exactly where I'm supposed to be on the map, and the needles are right where they're supposed to be, right?
Yep.
And there's the intercept coming in. So I'm going to start turning in before, like maybe 2 degrees before I get there, so I'll fly into the radial, and then I'll very quickly set up for Gavio to intercept at 163 radial. But I'll put the 163 at the bottom, right? And I've already dialed nav 2 into Gavio, so all I got to do is change the radial, right? So I'm putting 165 on the bottom, so that when I intercept it, I fly a 2 heading. You see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So it'll be a 3, 4, 5 heading into once I get there, and then it's pretty much as soon as I'm on that radial, I'm basically going to dial that into San Mateo and dial into the ILS. That's pretty much what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep flying 3, 4, 5 until I intercept the other radial off of San Mateo.
And then you just finish the approach.
Yeah. Right. Well, to finish my story in Orange County, I was in clouds at 2,000 feet. The clouds were down to 1,100 feet, and it kept trying to vector me for the visual, telling me to maintain 2,000. Now, how the heck am I going to see the airport in the clouds if it won't clear me for an approach? And it seemed like it wasn't gonna. I couldn't figure out if I can request an approach, but it was just basically assuming I was in VFR conditions. So the ATC explained the stock it has
default.
It has problems. I mean, sometimes you can dial it in and it will work okay, but other times it just screws you up if you don't know what you're doing. Okay, so here I am. I'm descending to 4,000 feet now that I'm on the radial, right? Okay, but yeah, if you don't know what you're doing, if you're not aware of where you are and you just blindly follow the ATC, you're going to be in a heap of trouble. I don't know why it gave me this directional gyro thing, because I was pretty much right on it.
Yeah, maybe.
So I don't know. Maybe it will descent peg to compass. I don't know. But
I doubt it.
But I'm getting down. I'm almost at 4,000 feet now. My radial hasn't come in yet for the intercept. I can't change my nav 1 to the ILS yet until I have reached this intercept. But I have it queued up, so all I have to do once that happens is basically hit the nav switch, and switch from the standby to the active, right? And it will immediately switch over, and I'll just put it on, I'll put the dial to 070 as I have time. So yeah, at 4,000 feet, level out, the speed's still pretty good. I know exactly where I am now because of my radials. Right, and I know exactly where I'm going to head to the next intercept, which is now just starting to come in. I think it's coming in.
Looks like it.
Looks like it's starting to come in. So, so based on my heading, I'm flying a 260, or it's 250, 260, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, and because that's heading into the needle, you see that? I know that I'm heading the right direction. It's in front of me, basically. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm doing nav radio work to set up my, I think I'm setting up San Mateo or on standby on the nav 2. That's what I'm doing. I'm getting it ready, right? This is when Flight Simulator becomes fun when you get busy like this.
Yeah.
Very
complicated to keep track of everything.
Do it right. Yeah, well, it's just, this is one of the reasons why I didn't do ATC, because I didn't want to be task saturated, and I just wanted to see if I could work the radios and work the nav radios I need.
Yeah.
Navigate. So I'm really doing a navigation test only here. Pretty soon, I'm trusting my radials here, I'm trusting my nav aids, even though I'm flying into space, I have no idea. Here we go, and it's now going to start to come in because I cut that part out. Alright, so pretty soon, just make sure it's right, 163, yeah, I need to be at 163, just making sure it's coming in. But I'm right on that Fillmore radio. Exactly. See, now the plane's in the accurate position. And you can see I'm about to get on that Gaviota 163 radio, right?
Yep.
I'm a little off on the Fillmore radio on the screenshot, but everything's going according to plan with this. And as soon as I get on the next radio, I'll descend to 3500. Right? So if I need to do a missed approach, I'm looking at my missed approach, I'll have to do radio 185 off of San Mateo. It'll already be dialed in. My nav 2 will already have that radio in. So I'll be ready to just switch it to the front radio and intercept that if I have to do a missed approach. Okay, so the radios come in. I'm going to fly heading 345. And I'm going to start to descend down to 3500 very soon here. Yeah, start to descend. And I'm turning kind of slowly because that radio's coming in slowly. But once I'm at 345, I basically ditch the Gaviota radio and I just plug in my intercept. It's not a very far distance.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to go heading on the 340 until I dial in the next radio off of San Mateo, off nav 2. And now that I'm off of the Fillmore radio, I'm going to switch that over to the ILS. I have my glide slope. And you can see the shore starting to come in. See that?
Oh, yep, I can see that. So that's the shore.
That's the shore, right?
So
and
you're still over the ocean.
I'm still over the ocean. And I think there's some Channel Islands below me. But yeah, I'm pretty much over the ocean. So now you can see I've dialed in the ILS. And I'm going to put it towards runway heading 070. You don't really have to do that, but it's a good way to remind you what the runway heading is. Right?
Yep.
And you can see the glide slope isn't coming in yet. You see that little red-white bar there?
Yep.
Right above the glide slope. It means it's not reading glide slope yet. I'm not close enough to the ILS.
So you're almost there.
Yeah, well, the ILS hasn't come in yet. I got a little ways to go. And pretty soon here, I think I'm intercepting. Let's see. Did I dial in San Mateo yet? Yeah, I'm doing it now. Okay, so I'm dialing in San Mateo and my intercept heading. I'm going to fly to the station off that radio. Right?
Yep.
So when that radio comes in, again, I'm not now at this point. I'm not navigating off of a radio. I'm just flying runway heading 345 until my San Mateo radio comes in, which is my intercept for the ILS. And it's going to come in really quickly because it's not a very far distance until it comes in.
Yeah.
You can see I have a 2 heading for San Mateo. You can see I think it's already starting to inch in a little bit, but yeah, once it comes in, I'm on a perfect. I'm at 3,500 feet, right where I'm supposed to be. Altitude-wise for starting the approach, right?
Yep.
And again, I'm sorry I leave the nav ident on for most of this. I don't realize it until I get pretty close on to the airport. And I also make another big mistake here, and I don't realize it towards the end of the glide slope. And that is, I forget to do my checklist.
Your landing checklist.
My landing checklist, which would have meant I turn on my landing lights and and my taxi lights and all that in preparation for landing. So you'll see towards the end of the glide slope, I go, oops, I don't have my landing lights on, and I pop them on real quick. That's tough to do. It's tougher to do in a simulator than in the real world because now I got to look down and while I'm flying the ILS.
Extra finger.
While I'm flying the ILS at high sensitivity, this is the point where I should be doing my checklist. While as the radial's coming in for my intercept, and it's starting to come in now. You see it's almost there. About 4 degrees left to get to it. And as soon as it comes in, I'm going to head towards that radial, that 2 station on a heading of 055, I think it is. Okay, so I'm starting my turn at 3,500. Now you can see the glide slope has come in. Now, once the glide slope comes in, I'm going to start establishing a descent off of 3,500 feet, right? I'm a little high right now, but I'm going to start establishing descent because I want to follow that glide slope all the way down. And now I'm on the radial, and you see I'm going to turn in, and you should see that. Oh, there's the airport. Do you see the airport?
Yes, I see the airport.
Okay, so there's the runway. We couldn't see the airport before this point, or weren't sure. Now I'm above glide slope, so I'm going to start setting up for a descent.
Where do you see the glide slope? Instruments?
Yeah, I'll show you. Now I'm looking towards the looking outside. Look at that. Okay, I just put in my first degree of flaps, or first set of flaps, so I'm trimming up, and that caused me to go up a little bit because I was a little fast there. The glide slope is the horizontal needle on nav 1. You see that?
Oh, okay.
So now, am I above or below the glide slope?
You are above.
Correct,
Yes.
because the little circle is the plane, right?
Yep.
The needle is where I'm supposed to be. So I have to descend, don't I?
Yep.
So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm descending, and I'm going to do a little bit faster descent than, I've learned on this plane, you get dialed in about 80 knots, 80, 90 knots, and you want about a 500 feet per minute drop. So in order to re-intercept that glide slope, I'm going to go a little faster than that. I'm going about 700. Right? I think there's my second degree of flaps right there. Okay, and then I have a visual on the runway, so I could actually do a visual approach at this point, but I'm going to go ahead and fly the glide slope. I'm going to fly the ILS, right?
Uh-huh.
So, because I want to pretend, I want to be ready for when I do get in the clouds. I want to be able to fly this ILS. So you'll see the ILS is now, it's the localizer, which is the vertical needle, is starting to come in now, right?
Yep.
Right, yeah, you can just check to see my flaps are down at 20%, or to the second notch, sorry.
Yeah.
My localizer's coming in. As soon as it comes in, I'm going to turn to heading. What?
You're gonna turn to runway heading.
You're right. It's 070.
Yes.
Which actually I have on my heading book. I already put that on my heading. Can you see that? So I'm slowly turning in, and I'm still descending. So I need to get back on that glide slope.
You can see the runway ahead.
Yeah, and I got plenty of time because I'm basically almost at the outer marker now. So, and I'm sorry for that, Nav. I'll probably quiet down the sound in the final edit so you don't have to hear that. But now you see my glide slopes coming in, right? So I'm gonna once it comes in, I'm gonna put in a little power, and I'm going to reduce my speed, my vertical speed, right?
Yep.
Back down to 500. By adding a little power, and I'm trimming up the plane from the glide slope. You can see I'm right on the glide slope. See that?
Yep.
And I'm right on the localizer too. So I have my nav 1 is showing the needles in a perfect plus, or near perfect plus. And I'm going to fly that all the way down to the runway. Okay? So I'm going to watch my airspeed. I'm going to keep it right around 75, 80. I could actually be going a little bit faster here, but I want to keep those. I want to get on glide slope, and I want to stay on glide slope. So I've got it trimmed for flaps. I don't think I ever use the last notch of flaps, so I just fly this all the way down.
Yeah.
And again, I don't have my landing lights on at this point. I should. I should have them on. I should have my taxi lights on. I mean, I should have everything ready for landing at this point. And all I should have to be focusing on is flying those needles, right?
Yeah.
You can see I have the VSI dialed in right at 500. I'm right on the glide slope. I'm right at 80 knots. You know,
Yep.
so I don't care anymore about nav 2 because I've passed the intercept. I'm just flying nav 1 at this point. I have nav 2 ready to go in case I need to do a missed approach per the procedure.
Which I'm assuming we will.
Which I don't. Yeah, I didn't need to do it. So
Yeah.
because this is a nice clear night. That you can see the PCH on the left there. So that big freeway. It looks beautiful, doesn't it?
Yep, looks very nice.
Yeah.
It's a Pacific Coast Highway.
Yep, that's right.
Goes from like California to Washington.
Yeah, even to Canada, I think so. It spans the entire coast. So we're flying the glide slope here pretty good. I'm making very, very small adjustments. So you see there, I was a little bit below glide slope. Now I'm getting back on by reducing my VSR a little bit with power. Right?
Get to that steady 74 knots.
Get to that steady landings. Yeah, my landing speed. Right. So I'm flying and just just fly this all the way down.
Not much more to say right now.
Well, I mean, other than you'll see when I realize that I don't have my landing lights on.
When do you realize that?
I realize it pretty much. Maybe I'm about 150 feet above the runway. That's when I realize it. So I have to go real quick and flip it on, look down, and yeah.
Click the reset view immediately.
Well, so we really need to get good checklists, and we need to get good at using them.
Yeah.
So, and I have a first flight coming up on the Baron, which is completely out of my comfort zone. I don't use the checklist for that either, but I did a pretty good job. I was just trying to figure out. That'll be a fun video to finish.
Yeah.
Too.
We'll do a voiceover on that one too.
Yeah, we did a voice. I did that one also late at night because I intentionally wanted to get out of my comfort zone. I'm not I was never multi-engine rated. I think I was in a multi-engine just a couple of times. I don't have any time really at all. And so, and also I had some time in a complex aircraft. I think it was a 172 RG that we flew. That had the prop and the retractable gear, a high performance plane. So the Baron is a very high performance plane. It's a complex plane, which it has two props, it has landing gear, and 2 engines to manage. And it's pretty funny when I get into that plane to see how that works.
Yeah.
I'm fumbling around the cockpit the entire first part of the startup. So, but we'll have that. That's going to be a video will come very soon. So here I am. I'm thinking I'm doing really good, right?
Yeah.
So.
And then you're like, oh wait,
like,
the
oops.
landing lights.
Oops. Right. So we'll see if I butter this landing, right?
Yep. We'll see.
So.
I'm trying to kill the landing.
Yeah, you can see how well I do. This
Yeah.
landing. And for having to do a last minute, and I think I realized it because I'm like, man, I'm not seeing the runway lights at all, or the runway markings at all. I'm like, oh, it would help if I had my, I finally turned the nav Morse code off, the nav ident off. I finally realized it.
Oh, now you should be almost realizing.
Yeah. Now see how as I'm getting closer, how sensitive that glide slope is becoming. I mean, just very small changes.
Yeah.
Starts to throw it off a lot. Now at this point, I'm at 200 feet. I shouldn't be using that anyway. I should be using the visual. At this point, if I'm still in the clouds and can't see the runway, I have to do a missed approach, right? Or there's an if you look at the procedure, there's an altitude, decision altitude that if you haven't seen the airport by that time. Now about this point, I go, oh, I don't have my lights on. So we'll see. That's funny. I'll look down real quick and pop them. Look at that, I'm 50 feet above the runway. Still don't have. Oh, there you go. There you go. Oh, landing lights. Okay. Now let me land.
That's funny.
Okay.
Alright, let's see.
Now I can see it. Okay, so there we go. And I probably rolled a little bit early.
Yeah, you
Fired a little early, but then. There we go.
That's good landing. I rate 9 out of 10.
Oh, thank you. I wasn't really on centerline either, but it's okay. It's at night. We're gonna pass, right?
Yeah, you get a free pass.
All right, then we're just gonna. I cut out the taxi here, and I just pull up to the FBO.
Now you're just taxiing to the hangars.
And then we're gonna park. But I had a lot of fun on this flight, and reacquainting myself with navigations. VOR flight is really fun. I know today they have GPS. When I was flying, GPS was really in its infancy. It wasn't really being used yet. Very few people had it. It was very, very expensive instrumentation. But I enjoy flying VORs. It's really good skill set to have. So now at this point I'm going to shut down. That was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
if you land at night, do you get a cab or something to a hotel?
Well, yeah, you're not going to sleep in the plane. Unless you're going to fly back. So
It'll be cool to see how that goes.
Here I am. I'm going to shut down to 1,000 RPMs and then cut off the power, and then I'm going to shut down.
While you were landing, did you forget to put the mixture rich?
No, I think I had set it to. I think I had set it to rich.
Oh.
I'm not sure. Actually, it's a good question. I should review the video there. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe and like the video, and we'll see you next time on Father Son Flight Sim.
See ya.